Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to day 3 of the daily upload series leading up to the 2024 NFL Draft. Right now, we are going through the position rankings portion of this daily upload series, and today we're going over my top 10 wide receivers for the 2024 NFL Draft. Now, tomorrow we're going to be focusing on interior offensive linemen, but today we are focusing on the wide receivers, one of the most deep position groups in this entire NFL draft. If you need a receiver, you can grab a quality receiver a little bit down the board. Of course, there's a lot of great guys at the top of the draft, but it's so deep that if you need a receiver, but you want to take the best player available or maybe a different position in the first round, you'll still get a quality guy in the second, third round. But in today's video, we're going over my top 10 receivers for the 2024 NFL Draft. And if you enjoy, all I ask is that you leave a like and subscribe to the channel to help push the video out there and to help the channel grow, as the support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into my top 10 wide receivers for the 2024 NFL Draft. But first things first, as always, I have to remind you that Jesus is King, and I just pray that you give your life to him, as he has got a plan and a purpose for you. And I truly hope that you accept him with your whole heart and believe that he died on the cross for your sins, because Jesus wants to have a relationship with you. And the only way that we get to heaven is through Jesus and the works that he did and the sacrifice that he made on the cross, living the perfect, sinless life, and then sacrificing himself on the cross, and then dying and then being resurrected from the dead 3 days later. And it's through Jesus' gift of eternal life, through his death on the cross, that saves us. A lot of people thinks it's how many times we go to church or how many times we do these good works. And yes, those things are good and we should want to do those things, but it's solely through Jesus. It's solely through him and his sacrifice that saves us. Of course, through our nature being saved, we should want to do these good things and go to church, but the reason that we're saved is through the gift of salvation through Jesus and his sacrifice on the cross. Now, a lot of people don't like that I'm sharing this message, but to me as a Christian, it's very important, and I'm going to continue to spread this message, whether I have 1 million subscribers or whether I have 0 subscribers. I'm going to spread the message whenever I can, and so if you don't like it, that's unfortunate, because I'm going to continue to share this message at the start of every single one of my videos. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into my top 10 wide receivers in the 2024 NFL Draft. So, starting at number 10, we have Ladd McConkey out of Georgia. Now, Ladd McConkey is a little bit different than you would expect, because you look at him and he kind of looks like the Wes Welker type of build, but Ladd McConkey has a great initial burst and a quickness to explode off the line of scrimmage to create early separation from his defenders. He has an elite speed, as he ran a 4.39 40-yard dash, and is an elite route runner who has a dynamic route tree. It's not a basic route tree where, it's run a go route, run a post, run a dig. He has a versatile his route running is, he has an arsenal, and he can run multiple different routes, more than people expect him. He has quick feet and a great ability to stop and start and change the direction. Of course, we talked about starting and stopping with the running backs. Stopping, letting the defender run right by you, and then starting, or I think I said stopping, but yeah, stopping, letting the defender run by, and then starting again to continue, obviously, going down the field. As well as he has a great ability to change directions. If he's running a route, needs to catch the ball, and then needs to go the other way, or if something happens and he needs to change directions mid-route, he's able to do that because he has quick feet and he has the ability to change directions. He's going to attack the ball in the air. When the ball's up in the air, it's going to be his ball. Like I said, he's going to attack it. He has strong, sturdy, and reliable hands. He's going to catch a lot of things that come his way. However, the area that he does need to improve in catching is his contested catching ability, and the jump ball ability. He is a smaller receiver, so being able to go up and jump for those 50-50 balls or the contested catches, he does need to work on coming down with those catches, but that's something that he can work on, obviously, in the NFL and with his offensive coaches. And the final thing about Ladd McConkey is he is great at tracking the ball in the air. When the ball goes up in the air, he's able to identify it and track where it's going to be, and then run the route and be able to run under it and be able to catch the football wherever it goes. Now, during his time with the Georgia Bulldogs, he played in 39 games with 119 receptions. He had 1,687 receiving yards, averaged about 14.2 yards per reception, and scored 14 touchdowns. Now, my number 9 receiver in this class is going to be none other than Keon Coleman, the wide receiver out of Florida State. And previously, before the combine occurred, he was my number 4 receiver, and he drops all the way to number 9. Now, you're not supposed to judge a player just based off of their combine performance, but I just wasn't impressed with his combine performance, and it's not the sole reason he dropped, but I was impressed by a lot more receivers as I got to watch more film and got to read more on these players. So Keon Coleman does drop. And another thing I do want to mention is I show the stats on the screen. You should not base a player and how they perform and who they are based on stats alone, because stats can lie. Stats can be deceiving. I display them because it's easy for the graphics and it's easy for me to display the graphics with the stats, but there's a lot more that goes beyond the stats, and that's why I'm giving you who these players are and not just the stats. So I don't want to be misleading, and I want to say this at the beginning of every video, but I forget. So don't just rely on stats. You have to look into the player and get to know who they are as well. But Keon Coleman is an athletic wide receiver with a big build and size, and he is a true X receiver. He stands at 6'3", 213 pounds, but like I mentioned, he did not run well at the combine. He is supposed to be this big athletic receiver, but at the combine, he ran a 4.61 40-yard dash, which was underwhelming to me, and I wasn't impressed by it. I was looking forward to how Keon Coleman was going to run. Didn't run super well, and it was just unfortunate. I think he ran better at his pro day, if I remember, but at the combine, it was a little disappointing and a little lackluster. It kind of reminds me a few years ago for the 2022 NFL draft when Treylon Burks didn't run super well for the combine. Just wasn't super prepared. So we'll see if that has any meaning, but I wasn't super impressed with how he ran. But getting back into the strengths of Keon Coleman, he plays with elite strength, and it's kind of a horrible transition, but he does play with elite strength at the wide receiver position and is good at picking up yards after the catch, and he is very, very tough to tackle given his frame. Remember, he's 6'3", 213 pounds, so he can be a challenge to tackle in the open field. Now, he also has elite ball skills with the ability to track the ball in the air and catch the ball at the highest point or at the apex point. When it's at its peak, Keon Coleman is going to go up and get it and come down with it and make sure that when the ball's in the air, it's his ball and nobody else's ball. The corners are not going to get it, and he is going to essentially box him out, go up, and come down with the rebound, essentially, so to speak. Not a big basketball fan, so I hope I got that reference fairly well and correct, but yeah, and then the final thing on Keon Coleman is he is explosive after the catch. He's very agile with the ball in his hands, and he is going to make defenders miss, and he is going to do the best to his ability, I guess the best of his ability to pick up the first down and be super agile and explosive and do everything he can to essentially be a playmaker when the ball's in his hands. Now, Keon Coleman didn't just play with Florida State. He actually transferred to Florida State from Michigan State. So in his 34 games with both the Michigan State Spartans and the Florida State Seminoles, he had 115 receptions for 1,506 yards, averaged about 13.1 yards per reception, and scored 19 touchdowns in his college career. Next up, my number 8 receiver is going to be Troy Franklin. He's another faller from, I guess, my pre-combine rankings. But I still think Troy Franklin, to me, Keon Coleman and Ladd McConkey are round 2 guys. Probably early round 2 guys. But honestly, with how deep this receiver class is, I could see everyone from Troy Franklin all the way down to my number 1 receiver. You guys probably know who it is. Just based on, everyone's smart here. We know who the number 1 receiver is. I just don't want to spoil it right now because I'll just say Marvin Harrison Jr. From Troy Franklin all the way down to Marvin Harrison Jr. But to me, I most likely see Troy Franklin as another early day 2 guy in the second round, but could sneak his way into the back end of the first round. Now, Troy Franklin has elite speed as he ran a 4.41 40-yard dash. Not the fastest speed by any means, but 4.41 is nothing to scoff at. It's a pretty good time at the combine. But to me, he played much faster in his game speed. You guys know, if you watch film or even watch football, players can run a 40-yard time and either it's faster than their game speed or slower than their game speed. But when I looked at Troy Franklin, to me, I thought he ran a little bit faster than a 4.41, but that's just my opinion. But he combines his speed with his size at 6'2", 176 pounds. Now, the 176 pounds may be a little bit concerning. You don't want him to absolutely get lit up when he is going over the middle of the field or taking a hit from an NFL linebacker. But yeah, he's got good size at 6'2". And to me, he is one of the best route runners in the entire class. Is he the best? I don't think so, but he is one of the better route runners in the entire class. And he has a very versatile route tree. It's not a basic route tree, but he can run plenty of routes depending on what offense he goes. I guess not depending, whatever offense he goes into, he can run a high variety of routes. Now, he's also a versatile player, and he can play either in the slot or he can play outside as an X receiver, as that number 1 receiver at the X position, or he can be the number 2 complementary receiver, or if you like him playing in a slot, he can play in the slot as well. Now, he's also great at high pointing the ball and controlling his body when making catches on the sideline. Can go up, high point the ball, bring it in, and then on the sideline can be difficult to make the catches, or can be difficult to make catches, and he controls his body on the sideline to make those catches. During his career with the Oregon Ducks, he played in 40 games with 160 receptions. He had 2,483 yards, averaged about 15.5 yards per carry, and had 25 touchdowns. Next up, my number 7 receiver is going to be Xavier Legette. And I might be a little bit lower on him than some people are. I think he is a late first-round pick, early second-round pick. And honestly, initially when I was making this video and I was going over my rankings, Legette was my number 9 receiver. But after doing some more research, watching some more film, Xavier Legette moved all the way from number 9 to 7. And I still might be a little bit lower on him. I feel like I'm always lower on one receiver in a draft class than other people are. A few years ago, what was it? I think it was 2022 when Christian Watson was coming out. I was a little bit lower on him than some people. I feel like this year it's Xavier Legette, but to me, I'm still super impressed by Xavier Legette. I think he could very easily be a first-round pick, like I mentioned. In my opinion, though, I think he'll be an early second-round pick, but he is a very reliable receiver when it comes to catching the football, and he makes very difficult catches in traffic. There's going to be those contested catches. There's going to be those times where you have to make a catch when you're either getting hit or when a gap is closing, when a window is closing. And Xavier Legette is able to do that. He has elite speed as he ran a 4.39 40-yard dash, and he has excellent acceleration, and he has a great burst and quickness off the line of scrimmage. He's going to explode off that line, and he's going to create separation instantly. And with his acceleration and speed, he's able to run by the corners and create those separations. But he also combines that with a great build. He's 6'1", 221 pounds, and so that size and speed combo, like you'll see with a lot of these receivers. A lot of these receivers have a great build, and they also combine that with a lot of speed. So that's why this receiver class is very impressive, not only at the top, but throughout the entire class when you look in the depth. It's a very impressive receiver class. And then the next thing about Xavier Legette, and I guess the final thing that I have, is he has great body control when catching the football, as well as he tracks the football in the air very well. He's going to run under it, and he's going to get to the spot where he needs to be to catch the football. During his career with the South Carolina Gamecocks, he played in 53 games, had 113 receptions for 1,678 yards. He averaged about 14.8 yards per reception, and had 12 touchdowns on the season. Next up, my number 6 receiver is Xavier Worthy. Now, if I had to be honest, I kind of wanted to put Xavier Worthy at number 7 and Xavier Legette at number 6. But the reason why I put Xavier Worthy at number 6 is because every, I guess, pro scout, every insider is saying that Xavier Worthy is essentially a lock to go in the first round after he set the new record at the NFL Combine for the fastest player at the NFL Combine. But to me, other than the speed, I wasn't super impressed by Xavier Worthy. Like I mentioned, I would put him at 7 below Xavier Legette. But because of what I've heard and because I think he's probably going to go in the first round due to his speed, I have to put him here at number 6. And like I mentioned, he has elite speed and burst, and he can run by any corner. Like I mentioned, he set the record at the Combine for the fastest man. Now, like I mentioned, the Combine isn't the end-all, be-all. It's not necessarily the game speed he's going to play at, because you have to put on the helmet and you have to put on the shoulder pads. And that is probably going to slow you down a little bit. And then you're obviously training to go through the 40-yard dash. You're not always going to be playing at that high of a speed, but speed kills, they say. Speed kills. My biggest concern with Xavier Worthy is he drops the football a decent amount. Now, a few years ago, he had a broken hand, and so he was playing through that, and so he did struggle to catch the ball. But then I was watching this season as well. He does have some concentration drops when going down the field. Does drop the football from time to time, and so that is a little bit of a concern for me. Is as a receiver, you got to catch the football, and I know there's going to be times when you drop the football, but Xavier Worthy did have some drop problems in the past, and whether that's because of the broken hand or whatever it was, that is a concern for me. But when the football is in his hands, he is an elite playmaker. It doesn't matter if you're going to be sending him. It doesn't matter if you're going to be sending him on a go route, on a slant route, on an in route, on a dig route, on an out route, whatever it is. When the football is in Xavier Worthy's hands, he is a playmaker, and he's going to make something happen. He's going to evade tacklers. He's going to get the football up the field, and he's going to do the best to his ability with the football in his hands. And when the football is in his hands, he is one of the best playmakers in the entire draft class. But another concern of mine for Xavier Worthy is his ability to go across the middle with an NFL defense. Essentially, he's got this small frame. He's 5'11", 165 pounds, and if he takes a big hit when going across the middle from an NFL linebacker on whether it's a drag route, a slant route, an in route, if he takes a big hit, I'm just worried about that frame at 5'11", 165 pounds. So to me, that is a concern. So in my opinion, I would play him on the outside and not as a slot receiver to go across the middle of the field. But that's just me. I'm obviously not an NFL coach. I'm not a professional, but that's just my opinion. And then a thing that is super relevant now is with the new NFL kickoff rule, Xavier Worthy will be an elite special teamer. So if he doesn't work into your starting receiver core right away in his rookie season, he will be an instant impact as a returner. Because of the new kickoff rule, where essentially you're kind of forced to return the kick, Xavier Worthy will be a dynamic playmaker as a special teamer and as a returner. During his career with the Texas Longhorns, he played in 39 games with 195 receptions, or 197 receptions. He has 2,755 receiving yards, averaging about 14 yards per reception, and scoring 26 touchdowns in his college career. Moving on to my number 5 receiver is Adonai, or A.D. Mitchell. I am such a fan of A.D. Mitchell. He's one of those guys who, if you guys haven't watched the channel, this is your first video on the channel. I'm a Broncos fan, and personally for me, I want to see either trade up for J.J. McCarthy or Drake May, or at pick 12 select Bo Nix, or even trade down and select Bo Nix. But if the Broncos don't go quarterback in the first round, Adonai Mitchell would be someone who I would want the Broncos to target. I'm super high on Adonai Mitchell. Of course, played with the Texas Longhorns this past year, but transferred from the Georgia Bulldogs. To me, Adonai Mitchell, one of my favorite players in this entire draft. I am a huge, huge Adonai Mitchell guy. And if the Broncos decide to trade back, pick him in the first round, and then select Bo Nix in the second round if he's there, I would be so, so happy. I'm just a big fan of Adonai Mitchell. Now, Adonai Mitchell is an explosive and vertical threat who has elite speed, as he ran a 4.35 40-yard dash at the combine, as well as he has great size to him as well. Sit at 6'2", 205 pounds, and he has excellent ball skills. And what I mean by that is he is great at tracking the deep ball and has a great ability to win these jump balls and these jump balls, the 50-50 balls, whatever you want to call them. He has a great ability to go up and get those and bring those down, as well as having excellent body control in getting those and coming down with those deep balls. And the 50-50, the jump balls, he's great at coming down with those. And he also creates separation from his defenders with his speed, with his explosiveness, with the burst that he gets off of the line of scrimmage. He has a great deep route. He has a great route tree in terms of the deep routes, in terms of the go ball, in terms of the dig, in terms of the post, in terms of the corner. In those deep routes, he is one of the best route runners in terms of that deep route running. And then he's also got a great catch radius. Anything thrown in the vicinity of Adonai Mitchell, he is going to bring in and he's going to catch the football. And he has some of the most reliable hands in the NFL draft. Maybe he has even the best hands in the NFL draft. They are sure, reliable, sturdy hands, and he's going to make sure he catches the football and brings it in. And overall, Adonai Mitchell is a great athlete. So yeah, Adonai Mitchell, my number 5 receiver, and I think he's a lock to go. I think he's obviously a lock to go in the first round, but to me, I think he should be a top 20 pick. Top 20, top 25 pick. A lot of people are projecting him at the very end of the first round. I don't know. I disagree. I think Adonai Mitchell is one of the best receivers in this entire draft. But moving on to during his career with the Texas Longhorns and the Georgia Bulldogs, he played in 35 games with 93 receptions. He has 1,405 receiving yards, averages about 15.1 yards per reception, while scoring 18 touchdowns in his college career. Now, moving on to my number 4 receiver, it is going to be one of 2 LSU receivers in Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. to me was one of the biggest risers after watching some more film and watching the combine and everything. I can't remember what he was at before, but he is now my number 4 wide receiver. And he has great size and great speed combination. Surprise, surprise, at 6'3", 209 pounds, while running a 4.33 40-yard dash. That is, that's impressive. And he has a great ability to stop and start, to make defenders miss, and to avoid the tackles like I mentioned earlier. I'm going to try and get through this a little bit faster because I like to ramble and explain these points in depth. You guys aren't stupid. You know what they mean, so I'm going to try and speed this up, just go over the bullet points and not try to extend my explanation. Brian Thomas Jr. is explosive off the line of scrimmage, and he is great at creating his separation from his defenders. He has a great change of direction, and he is a very decent route runner. I won't say he is the best route runner or the greatest route runner in this draft, but he's a decent route runner. And in the NFL, I think that is something that can be coached to him to improve his route running and to improve his route tree. He's a very agile receiver, and he's going to be difficult to tackle when the football is in his hands. Similar guys like Xavier Worthy, when the football is in his hands, he's going to make plays happen, and he's going to be very difficult to bring down. Like I mentioned, very agile, difficult to tackle when the ball's in his hands. Great at high pointing the football and tracking the football down the field. He's going to find it, track it down the field, and he's going to make the catch, whether that's going to be high pointing the football, whether that's going to be in a contested catch, whether that's going to be in a 50-50 ball. He's going to come down and he's going to make the catch. So yeah, Brian Thomas Jr., my number 4 wide receiver. And in 38 games with the LSU Tigers, he had 127 receptions with 1,897 yards, averaging about 14.9 yards per reception and scoring 24 touchdowns on the season. Now moving into the top 3, we all know the top 3 receivers in this class, and Romo Dunze is one of 3 Washington receivers that are going to be drafted in the 2024 NFL Draft. Of course, Jalen Polk just missed this top 10 wide receiver list, and then another guy in Jalen McMillan was also not on the list. But Romo Dunze is the best of the bunch, and he is considered one of the big 3 wide receivers in this draft class. Now, Odunze has a great frame at 6'3", 212 pounds, and he uses his frame to attack the football in the air. When it's up in the air, he's going to go and get it, and he's going to make sure that when the ball's in the air, it's his ball, and no defender is going to be able to intercept it and bring the ball down. It is going to be his ball. He's an elite route runner with an advanced route tree. He could run almost every route in that route tree. He has a huge catch radius and reliable hands, and he's going to catch anything that is thrown in the vicinity of him. His wingspan is so big that anything thrown in the direction of him, he's going to get, and he's going to bring it in, and he's going to make it a catch. He has a fast change of direction, making him excellent at snapping off the top of his routes, on those comeback routes or on the hooks, on the hitches. He's very explosive at snapping it off and coming back to the football to make those, I guess, I don't know the correct word, but those extreme cuts at the top of the route to get open and give the quarterback a split second to throw it and get it there in those quick timing routes and in those quick situations. And then he's elite at tracking the ball in the air and making adjustments mid-route to go and get the ball and bring it down. And he possesses a great yak ability, which is yards after catch ability, because of his elusiveness and agility. When the football is in his hands, he is going to try and make plays happen. He's going to be elusive. He's going to try and evade the defenders, like everyone is, but he is elite at evading defenders and getting those extra yards after the catch. During his career with the Huskies, he played in 38 games with 127 receptions, with recording 1,897 yards, averaging about 14.9 yards per reception, and scoring 24 touchdowns. I got to know, are those this? I think I forgot to update. I think I forgot to update Odunze's stats. So let me look here. Yeah, I think I messed this up. So if we look here, I forgot to update it, which is my fault. But he has 214 receptions for 3,200. Here, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and update this, and I will be right back. Alrighty. So we are back. Here are Romo Dunze's actual stats. I can't believe I forgot to update it. That's my fault. These things happen, these accidents happen, and I try and be perfect in these videos, and I'm not perfect. Nobody is. And so, I mess up all the time. Sometimes I forget to update stats on the different players. Like I mentioned, stats aren't everything, but I want to give the proper stats. So I try and be perfect. I messed up, and I try and catch it at the very beginning when I start a segment and when I start talking about a different player. But I messed up. But here's his proper stats. He played in 40 games with the Huskies, recording 214 receptions with 3,272 receiving yards, averaging about 15.3 yards per reception, while scoring 24 touchdowns. So, yeah, Romo Dunze, my number 3 receiver. Now let's move on to my number 2 receiver, and that is going to be Malik Neighbors, the other LSU receiver. Now, there's been some character concerns that have been brought to light recently. I think it's a smokescreen. I think it's a team who is trying to put that out there, hoping that Neighbors will fall. And, it sucks to kind of slander a kid and bring the character concerns up. I obviously don't know the character. I've never interviewed Malik Neighbors, and I don't know a whole lot about his personal life. But in terms of the football player, Malik Neighbors is an explosive route runner with great speed and he has the ability to kick his speed into a second gear if he needs to burn by a defender to get open and to get a separation. He does have that second gear. In my opinion, Malik Neighbors is the best route runner in this entire draft class. I think he's great in all 3 phases in terms of the short route, the intermediate, and the deep route. In terms of his route running, the best in this draft class. He's also elite at tracking the ball in the air and making adjustments mid-route to go and get the ball. He's a versatile receiver who can play outside or in the slot. He has sure hands. He's going to catch most things that come his way. Maybe an occasional 1 or 2 concentration drops, but for the most part, he is going to catch every football that is thrown his way, as well as he's a decent blocker. Maybe not the best blocker, and you would like to maybe coach him and have him practice and develop a better blocking skill, but he is a decent blocker when he needs to be a blocker. He's also great at coming down with jump balls and is great in the run after catch ability and his elusiveness and agility. When the football's in his hands, like so many receivers in this class, he's going to make defenders miss. He's going to be elusive, and he's going to juke, and he's going to pick up every single yardage he can after he gets that football in his hands. And I guess the final thing is Malik Neighbors. He has a elite vertical. He had a 42-inch vertical. Now, this was at his pro day. This is not his official combine score, but at his pro day, he jumped 42 inches. And the reason why I bring that up is he has an elite ability to high point the football in 50-50 balls and jump balls and contested catches. He has that ability to go up and get it and attack the ball while it's in the air. During his time with the LSU Tigers, Neighbors played in 38 games with 189 receptions. He's recorded 3,003 yards, averaging about 15.9 yards per reception while scoring 21 touchdowns. Now, moving on to the number 1 receiver in this year's draft class, it is still Marvin Harrison Jr., of course, the son of Colts legendary receiver Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison Jr., where can I start? He is a great route runner, specifically, in my opinion, on the intermediate and deep routes. Now, that doesn't mean he's a slouch on his short route running, but specifically in the intermediate and his deep route running, he is one of the best in the class. I still think Malik Neighbors is the best, but Marvin Harrison Jr. is no slouch in his route running. Now, he is a versatile player who can play in the slot or on the outside. He played both in college football, so whatever the team needs, he can play either slot or he can play on the outside as a true X receiver. My guess would be that he plays on the outside as an X receiver, but he does have that versatility if a team, depending on how a team wants to use him. He's great at tracking the football, high pointing the football, attacking the football in the air, and then, of course, bringing the football down to catch it and bring it in, because when it's his football, he's going to outmuscle you, and he's going to bring it down when he needs to. He's great at catching the football in contested situations. Like I mentioned, he's going to bring the football down, and when he gets his hands on it, it is his ball, and you're not going to rip it away from him. Now, he also is very explosive off the football, as he has got good size and speed at 6'3", 209 pounds. He ran a 4.39 40-yard dash, albeit at his pro day, as he did not participate at the combine in terms of the 40-yard dash and other drills like that. But because of his speed and explosiveness and the ability to burst off the line of scrimmage, he is able to beat press coverage very, very easily. Harrison Jr. is also a decent blocker, and he's got sure hands. He's going to catch the football when it comes to him. And like I mentioned with Malik Neighbors, he is a decent blocker when he needs to be a blocker. However, I do think that is an area that he can improve at in the NFL, as well as he will break tackles in the open field if you're not going to tackle him properly. None of these arm tackles to bring him down. You have to hit him, wrap him up, and bring him down. If you try and arm tackle him, he's going to break tackles in the open field. During his career with the Ohio State Buckeyes, he played in 38 games, recording 155 receptions for 2,613 yards, averaging about 16.9 yards per reception, and scoring 31 touchdowns. But yeah, that is my list on my top 10 receivers in the 2024 NFL Draft Class. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are in the comment section below. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as the support is greatly appreciated. Tomorrow, we're going to be going over the top 10 interior offensive linemen, so both centers and guards grouped into one. And I hope you all enjoy. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.